So hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. My name is Lisa Sunarine. I'm on the Transform Consulting team, and some of you may know me already. So I want to welcome you to the first of what's going to be a weekly series of Transform training webinars. And to kick this off, we have Nick Tiedemann with us today. He's the product manager for Transform, and he'll be going over what's new in Transform 6, which is due out next month. And we're all really excited about that over here. And before I turn it over to Nick, I just want to give a brief introduction to Transform for those of you who are new to the program and relatively unfamiliar. Basically, there are a lot of tools in this toolbox. What we want to do during this webinar series is gradually work our way through all of the items that you see in this list, focusing on the ones that are going to be relevant to the most users. But I think even those who have been using Transform for a long time may not be aware of everything that they have available to them. And part of that is because of our pace of development. So we've really added a lot of functionality in the last few years. And just to give you an idea of what our customer base looks like, and why they're using it, that breadth of functionality is a big strength of Transform. So it's something that attracts a lot of our customers, and it's why we have users from a pretty wide variety of disciplines. So that integrated platform cuts down on the amount of moving data back and forth between different software programs. And we have some really slick functionality that's fairly unique. So I'm just going to touch briefly on some of our biggest strengths that users have given us really high marks on. And the top of that list would almost certainly be our suite of data analysis tools. So we have easily customizable cross plots, pie charts, bar graphs, histograms. We make it really easy to get your statistics and customize your visualization. And what really sets us apart is that on top of all of that, we have some advanced modeling algorithms for multivariate analysis. So the most commonly used as far as those go is our nonlinear regression, and that's used for production prediction models. So you're able to combine your engineering data and your geoscience data together in one model to clarify what the biggest drivers of production are, and use that to optimize well planning. We're also well known for our specialized geophysical tools. So we've got really strong 3D visualization, microseismic interpretation, post-stack processing, waveform classification, attribute analysis. I'd say our data analysis and our geophysics are the things that we've been known for since Transform first started. And then over the past several years, we've really built out all of the geology functionality. So we have got really robust top interpretation and mapping as well. And then some of the stuff that we've added recently is what I would call specialized calculations. And this has gotten a lot of traction with users. So well targeting and well spacing would be examples of this, where we've designed these to kind of support our data analysis workflows. And these are things that we noticed a lot of our users were trying to do manually in order to incorporate some of this stuff into their multivariate models. And so we built out a tool that made it quick and easy for them and provided a visual interface to make that easier and help them QC what they're doing as they go along. So this lets you look at where your wells are landing relative to your own interpreted surfaces, calculate spacing in a number of different ways, whether that's horizontal only, total spacing, current, date dependent, a lot of user control over how that gets calculated. So that's a big strength of ours as well. And then another recent addition is our advanced property estimator. We call this the APE tool. And so this is a way to create synthetic well logs in areas where you don't have log coverage. So it does a guided 3D interpolation of log data. And it uses your own structural framework to guide that interpolation. So we're seeing that on the screen here. And this is something that we've really enhanced for Transform 6. So Nick is going to talk a little bit more about that later on. And generally, we have got a lot of flexible calculators and data generation tools. So we make it really easy to sample maps and seismic attributes to the well level. You can write your own equations and short scripts in our calculators. So everything's there at your fingertips to sort of customize your own workflows and get what you need. And what we want to do with this webinar series is try to make the most of the unfortunate situation that we're all in right now. So if you haven't had a chance to learn Transform in the past and you want to get started now, we're going to make it really easy for you so you can learn it from home 1 hour at a time. And as far as topics for the upcoming weeks, this is what we've got on the schedule. So we're doing this in an order to make it accessible to brand new users who have absolutely no experience with Transform in the past. And next week we'll be starting with a new user orientation. So keep an eye out for an invitation for that. And as we go on, we'll announce more dates, and some of the other topics that we'll definitely be covering later on will be multivariate analytics, seismic interpretation, velocity modeling, microseismic. And if you have some requests or feedback and want us to incorporate anything particular into this series, we'd love to hear from you. We'll try to incorporate some of that feedback as we go forward. So you're welcome to contact us. And with that, I will turn it over to Nick. I just want to give you a preview of the agenda for next week. So if this is something that appeals to you and you want to just get acquainted with Transform and the basics of how to put together displays and navigate the interface, this is a good place to start. And I will let Nick take over and take you through Transform 6.
All right, thanks, Lisa. Hopefully you can see. Hopefully that transition went smoothly. All right, so my name is Nick Tiedemann. I'm product manager here at Enverus on Transform. And we're right on the precipice of a big new release next month. And I'd like to share with you some of the cool stuff that we've been up to. All right, so I'm sure many of you on the call are already familiar with Transform, you're already users, but for those people who might be newer to Transform or not having experienced the software yet, really what is Transform and why is it part of our product portfolio here at Enverus? Fundamentally, Transform is about de-risking the subsurface. So if you have a block of rock, like a conceptual block of rock, you've got a lot of ways to develop the hydrocarbons out of that block, right? But which ways, with which methods maximize production and minimize costs? That's a very non-trivial question, as we all know. Really, the best drilling and engineering decisions are completely contingent on accurate subsurface characterization and de-risking. And Transform is our tool set that helps you do that. So we've been developing it for years into really a full-featured geoscience suite with a focus on subsurface insights and developing those into sound drilling decisions. You've seen kind of this slide from Lisa, but just to reiterate this, Transform does a whole lot of stuff, and it's really designed to take you from the initial phases all the way through to developing a mature field and anywhere in between, interpretation, well planning, the whole gamut. So some background on Transform, some history here. Transform's been around a while. In the mid-2000s, it was developed as kind of a collection of really powerful tools developed by some thought leaders in the industry, but kind of niche, with a shared database and visualization platform. And over time, that functionality grew and blossomed up until really about summer of 2018, and something special happened here at this time. Transform was selected to be deployed across the board at a major US onshore E&P. And along with that came a big development effort and partnership with this E&P to develop out Transform and take some of those powerful but niche tools and build workflows between them, fill things out, and really make it quite an expansive piece of software to really allow asset teams to work end to end. And what we're facing right now, where we're coming up on, is that first major round of functionality is pretty much done, and we're getting ready to release it. And that's what's culminating in Transform 6. Our last release was Transform 5.40. This is a step change, so we're going to 6. What does that mean? It really means that this new next release that we're coming out with next month has been built in close partnership with expert guidance from E&P pros. We have a very close relationship with this partner, and we're about ready to share the fruits of that labor, the fruits of that relationship with the rest of the world here. That means operational workflow support, like I was saying, and complete end-to-end. Of course, more functionality, fast-paced updates as we go forward. So Transform 6 is it's got a lot of kind of platform improvements and so forth. It's still evolutionary from Transform 5, but as we go forward, you're going to start seeing faster-paced updates and releases on this platform. And then, of course, top-tier geoscience, continuing on with Transform's well-known focus on geoscience. So the purpose of this slide is just to kind of show you that close relationship that we've been working on for almost the past year. And something really special is kind of developed here, where we're able to take our expertise in building technology and our expertise in the data, and combining that with the operational pragmatic expertise of our partner. It's been honestly, in my career, one of the most positive experiences that I've had in product management. So what we're working on here is the result of a special relationship. What has that resulted in? What's new? Well, I can't cover everything in great detail, but if you're currently on Transform 5.40, there's not quite as many visualization tools to view detailed cross-section information. We'll see some pictures of that. There's not as many seismic velocity and well interpretation capabilities as what we're now going to offer in a month. If you have a lot of raster logs that you want to get into and interpret without having to digitize, that's not something that's very easy to do. There's some multi-user data protections, like the data locking system, that sometimes gets in the way of our customers trying to collaborate on a big project with lots of people in a database. All of those have been addressed in Transform 6 and a lot more. So this is really just scratching the surface here, but just to give an overview of like how is it better than our last release. So there's a number of different themes that have come out of the development that we've been up to for the past year. Two of the highlights are new correlation and section views. So those are improvements to viewing and interpreting well data and seismic data. What you're seeing here in these two screenshots are our new correlation view. The goal here is to provide a much more detailed view on your wellbores, much higher quality, and a lot more visual customization possible here. Infilling between units, scales. I really can only scratch the surface here. Seismic backdrop is a big one. Really a focus on integrating seismic information along with your wells was a big focus here, because combining the data and the information generated from geologists and geophysicists was an overarching theme of our development work. Going along with that, you'll see the ability to integrate larger seismic and velocity volumes into daily workflows with improved performance, lower memory footprints, more efficient memory management. You can also access information and learn the software more easily with display order improvements. We have contour annotation in 3D, for example, more consistency of mouse operations. You can sync views for scrolling, and it's a subtlety here, but you can see it. We've got a new Enverus visual theme in here, which kind of delineates the areas of the software a little bit better. Makes it easier for newer users to kind of pick up, okay, what's going on in this panel versus this one, and kind of breaks it up a little bit more logically, visually, if that makes sense. Because we have a lot of new users coming on board, so anything we can do to facilitate that is beneficial. Some takeaways from all of this. Really, this is about geologists and geophysicists being able to have better tools to interpret larger data sets, display their data, and combine their data to construct more accurate pictures of the subsurface, and ultimately inform how to drill and complete wells. What does some of that look like? So I got a little video here showing our new correlation view along with a base map there, and I have a structure map where I'm just going to be interpreting some Wolfcamp tops and then watching as the structure map updates. But here I'm going to showcase one of the new tools that we have in that new correlation view allows us, and that's a ghosting tool. Now I've chosen just to do one track. You can do multiples, but I'm using that to match up the log response and make a top interpretation there. And I'm going to make a few. I might intentionally mistie some just so that you can see the map change a little bit more obviously. But you get the picture here that it's a focus on interpretation workflows and high quality visualization. What's possible in this view, if you're used to the old cross-section view, this view is much higher detailed. There's a new template creator to create templates for this that allows a lot more customization. So there you can see the contours updating in the map, of course. Here's another video just showing another useful utility that we put in here. I've selected a lateral well, horizontal well, and I right-clicked on it and said open section view. This is going to slice along that well and just quickly display the well and seismic without any further interaction from me, saving clicks, just giving you access to a quick view of that wellbore without a whole lot of configuration and so forth to get you on with your geoscience workflows. So that's just one example of something we've done in that realm, but it's a useful utility. I now use it all the time. Along those lines, the ability to save off any view to a flat file is something that we've implemented as well. That saves the data that was used in the view and the styling options applied to that data. You can then choose to load either just the data to a new view or the data and the styling options. So there, I'm just closing it. I'm going to load it back. Now, of course, I could close my session. You can even share these between users, provided they're working on the same project, and load that up. Again, saving clicks, saving time spent on just configuring data so you can spend more time actually performing geoscience. Here's a feature list in this theme. I'm not going to cover each one of these. I've highlighted a few that might pique your interest. If you see something on here that you'd like to learn more about, I'll provide those emails that Lisa showed in her slide at the end of mine. Just go ahead and contact us and we can provide more information there. But there's a whole bunch of stuff here. The next theme, generating insights from wells. This is a focus on well data. And I mentioned quick rasters. So there's a new method of getting large amounts of raster data into Transform, into that correlation view so that you can interpret on them without having to go through a kind of like a heavy-handed import process. This is really quick, it's really easy. It gives you the ability to organize the rasters after the fact, after they're in the project, or keep track of which one is on top of the other if they overlap and so forth. Our focus was on quick, easy, but also providing enough functionality to handle all of the strange cases that you sometimes get, like there's a coffee stain or something on it, which we've seen. What you're seeing here, we've got numerous enhancements to the display and filtering of well data. For example, much improved performance on creating well lists and filtering wells. That was something that was kind of a drag when in previous versions of Transform when the number of wells got quite high. That has been addressed. You can also size well symbols and displays independently. That was something that you couldn't do before. Numerous other improvements to well planning, inputting like dog-like severity, TVD at MD, multiple plan displays in the 3D view has been improved, and reducing clicks in that workflow all around. Let's see, I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. In the lower right-hand corner here, you're seeing the output from the advanced property estimator that Lisa talked about earlier. What we've gone ahead and done in Transform 6 was allowed that tool and built out that tool to actually write out to 3D seismic volumes. So 3D volumes of log interpolation along surfaces. What that allows us to do is anything you can do with a seismic volume, you can then use one of these in. So it's really open-ended, and we're actually looking forward to seeing what our customers do, what creative workflows they come up with to involve some of these volumes with. This also makes it quite easy to display these volumes, these log volumes, as a backdrop in the correlation view or in the section view, giving you potentially an idea for lateral changes in facies, sequence stratigraphy, and so forth. Also, numerous enhancements to well selection and filtering, like I mentioned. You'll see that wells come in above maps by default, and you can select across all well lists now, and the selection is more performant. Takeaways, you now have a lot more tools and options to display well data and parameters, plan wells, etc. You can also import and interpret on those rasters a lot more easily. Here's the feature list again. If you're curious about any one of these, let us know after this presentation. We'd be happy to provide more info or give you a demo or something like that. Last theme that I want to talk about here is really centered around kind of the architecture and the collaboration side of things. So because we're ramping up and integrating into this partner's infrastructure, we want to make sure that an entire asset team can collaborate on the database, not run into like data locking issues or collisions. And then also, we're deploying on larger data sets. Memory management becomes very important when you start ramping up the amount of data that you're dealing with. So you'll find that Transform 6 actually has a smaller base memory footprint than previous versions of Transform, and the memory management tools have been improved. That's a big deal if you're trying to push the boundaries of seismic and well data. We're also working on an well, we finished it now. We're going to be introducing an entitlement system, which I'll talk about here. This allows you to log in using your Enverus credentials. So you're a customer of Enverus. You've got a login to the gallery. What you're going to do is use that login to license Transform. The takeaway here and the real benefit of this is that hardware licenses are no longer a thing with Transform. You no longer have to configure a license server. You no longer have to contact support and get emailed a physical or a file-based license based on your hardware. You no longer have to have a dongle if that's something that your organization uses. All of that is handled now on the Enverus cloud entitlement system. If that's giving you maybe some cause for concern or anxiety, it really shouldn't, because there's no changes in your access. There's no impact on your billing. It's actually easier to add more Transform seats if you want to. You don't have to get emailed a license file or email a hardware ID anymore. If you've got multiple offices that couldn't share seats before because it was tied to hardware, that's no longer a limitation for you. We've had numerous customers who've kind of faced some issues there in the past. There's the potential for us to give you basic information on usage and metrics like how many opens, how many times you've opened Transform and so forth, if that's something that interests you. And then, of course, we've made provisions for offline use. So if you log in, you get a token that is good for a period of time. And we'll be working that out with each account to make sure that that's never going to be an issue for you. And then, of course, if that, for whatever reason, that token runs out, we'll make sure that you can still have access to your data. So takeaways from this entire theme here, your team will find it much easier to collaborate on larger projects is really the main take home. A lot of the pain points along these lines have been resolved. So if you've had issues collaborating on a project before in Transform, it really is worth taking a second look and maybe trying those workflows again in Transform 6, because we've done a lot of work here. Again, feature list for those who are interested in this level of detail. I know some of you probably are. If you have any questions on any of this, please, again, feel free to ask. And then here are those email addresses that you can contact us with. With that, we can open it up for questions, and I'd really like to thank you for your time. We're really excited about this release, and honestly, this is the culmination of the biggest development effort we've ever put on to Transform, and we're excited about getting that value into everyone's hands here. So I think we have a questions area. I just want to check it and see. One of the questions was on one of my previous slides, was the map interpreted using seismic in depth or time? If I remember correctly, I was just quickly gridding up tops on well bores for that. But had I could have incorporated seismic by doing a co-kriging algorithm that's available in mapping to impart the shape of the seismic between the wells to the tops. I didn't do that because I wanted to highlight, the magnitude of the change of the map as I was changing the tops, but that's absolutely something that you can still do in Transform. Lisa, this one might be for you. There's a question, can you cover log normalization in a webinar? That is something that Transform in 5.4 we could do. We have a couple tools for log normalization that are pretty powerful. We haven't done any log normalization updates for Transform 6, but that is something that is in the roadmap for the next year of development. So we're hoping to build upon that a bit, improve the usability, and develop that out a little bit further as we go forward.
Yeah, and I think, hopefully I'm not on mute now. I think we could incorporate log normalization into one of our sessions. And I know we have one set up a couple weeks from now for to just kind of cover all of the calculation tools. So it may be able to fit in there, and we may be able to touch on it briefly as it relates to top interpretation and some of those things. So yeah, I can try to fit in some tips on that in the next few weeks.
Sure. So we got a couple questions asking when on the time frame of the Transform 6 release, and that's hopefully a good sign. People are excited. We're looking at a release in early next month. We don't quite have a date set yet, but we're narrowing down. What we're doing right now is we're shoring up the capabilities, making sure that we're putting all the finishing touches on. And then we'll be rolling it out as soon as that effort is complete. We'll provide that date as soon as we have it to this the list of this webinar. That should be coming very soon. All right, a question. We have the license at only one user can use it, transform at a given time. Does this change? The short answer is no. The way we handle it is simultaneous seats now, and that can be attached to a particular user. The main thing to take away from that is that the amount of flexibility is actually greater. So the amount of scenarios that we can support via the entitlement system encompasses everything that we could support using the hardware licenses plus some more. It gets kind of detailed. Sometimes it depends on the particulars of the contract that you have with us. If you have any questions or concerns on that, again, contact us, and there are many questions.
Yes, so I think we'll be able to also email some responses to these and capture this, as I don't know if we'll be able to get through everything on this call.
There's another question. Are tutorials available? Yeah, we've got materials that were written for previous versions of Transform. We're also working on, of course, this webinar series, and we also have training materials that we've already done and are continuing working on specifically for Transform 6. So yeah.
And a few of you are asking for copies of this. So for registering, you will automatically get a link to the recording of this once it's up on our website, which I'm guessing will be probably by early next week.
If you're wondering where those tutorials and supportive material are located, there's a website. It's accessible through the gallery, the Enverus gallery. It's called the Customer Resource Center. If you click into there, there's a lot of information pertaining to Transform there. So you just click on Transform, you can access a whole bunch of information there. That's where I would recommend starting. All right, we can't possibly get to all the questions in the time that we have. I really appreciate your time. If you've posted a question in here, that'll be exported to like an Excel spreadsheet, and me and Lisa will be answering those questions, and we'll get back to you. Thank you for your interest, and thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.